Please check playlist for the full series.
Cross my heart and hope to die. Welcome to my dark side.
Please join us on Patreon for episodes weeks in advance. The Omni King stood tall, his eyes ablaze with a mix of anger and determination. I'm so close, I cannot afford to fail now. For millennia, I have carefully crafted this plan, only to see it crumble time and time again, he declared. His gaze dropped to the two sane warriors, their bodies enshrouded in a radiant beam of light. These mortals, they are truly extraordinary. For the first time in history, a mortal has surpassed the limits that were placed upon all beings in existence, mortals and deities alike. Fear not, Sanes, for today isn't the day you die. I need you to be alive for just a bit longer. The purified aquafoam that runs within your veins is crucial, the outcome of my plans. In an instant, the luminescent aura that had enveloped the Sanes dissipated, their vitality fully restored. Yet, while their physical forms were rejuvenated, their consciousness remained locked away in a state of dormancy, their spirits detached from their corporeal existence. The Omni King, with his omnipotent foresight, had anticipated this outcome. After all, the Omni form was but an extension of his own immense power, and he was well acquainted with the toll of attaining such divinity. The Omni King, despite common belief, was not an all-knowing entity. His power was unmatched, but infinite wisdom was not a part of his arsenal. From his inception, he was endowed with a myriad of distinct abilities, each harvested from an array of exceptional individuals. These powers were formidable by any standard, often described as overwhelming or overpowered. Included in his extensive collection of powers was a unique ability that played a crucial role during the Tournament of Power: the gift of future sight. This power enabled him to peer light years into the future without any limitations on the time span he could explore. Though the Omni King's foresight appeared flawless, there were moments when his predictions missed the mark. The visions themselves weren't inaccurate, but rather, the course of an individual's future had shifted unexpectedly, a feat achievable by only a select few. A pertinent example unfolded earlier in our tale when Goku and Vegeta were fated to merge into Omni Gogeta, a fusion that ultimately did not occur. This unforeseen divergence from the predicted future threw the Omni King's elaborate plans into chaos, prompting him to delve into the future once again to devise a new strategy. Conveniently, that quest led him to the understanding that a being under his command possessed an ability that could prove to be useful to him. That very same being was ranked among the top 5 mightiest entities in the multiverse. His name was Amuku, a Sane from a universe that was long erased who was credited with the creation of the Ultra Instinct technique. Within the confines of this universe, only 2 beings held the requisite power to reunite the Sane spirits with their dormant physical forms. In the grand tapestry of existence, there were other entities whose power was rumored to have rivaled that of the Omni King, such as Zalama and the mighty Super Shenron Dragon. But fate, it seemed, had other plans, as Zalama had vanished from sight, not to be seen since his infant years. The Super Shenron Dragon, on the other hand, had the capability to guide the Sane warriors back to their bodies. However, every glimpse into the future showed the Omni King a tragic outcome: the untimely demise of the Sanes before his grand plans could reach fruition. In this intricate dance of destiny, the only pathway to success lay in seeking the assistance of Amuko, whose unique abilities held the key to achieving the Omni King's objectives. Though he held the title of King of Everything, Zeno's powers were not without their limitations. That is why the Grand Priest was placed vigil by his side, serving as both protector and confidant while he grew as the Omni King was still a child in some weird way. The Sane warriors, caught in the twilight realm between life and death. They weren't dead, so the Omni couldn't simply bring them back to life. Furthermore, they weren't alive either, so healing them wouldn't be enough as shown earlier. The only option was to leave it in the hands of Amuko. Suddenly, the scene transitioned to the Grand Hall, where the Daishinkan stood in isolation, his expression painted with confusion. The events of the earlier confrontation swirled in his mind, an enigma he found himself unable to unravel. The fact that an unknown force had successfully halted his attack was unprecedented, its aura entirely unfamiliar to him. Mortal or deity aside, he had never felt that key before in the entire multiverse. Adding to the Grand Priest's perplexity was the fact that even the Omni King, the supreme ruler of all, was unaware of this mysterious force, seeing that he never brought it up when he entered the room. This clearly indicated that the Omni King was not the one who had intervened in the situation, further deepening the mystery surrounding the incident. The Grand Priest, who was ever so calm, could be seen in deep contemplation. "I must unravel the mysteries surrounding this unknown entity," he declared resolutely. "Its existence could potentially disrupt the meticulous plan laid out by my lord. It is imperative that I ascertain the true nature of this being and determine its whereabouts." Little did the fans of the Dragon Ball series know, there exist 3 realms beyond the confines of the 12 universes that fall under the dominion of the Omni King. However, the Grand Priest only knows about 2 of them. The third one is still a mystery to him. Among the 3, the first one is Universe 18, a realm that is home to the 5 mightiest beings in existence. In ages past, the Omni King himself had ventured into this realm, when it was still a part of his multiverse, before he ultimately decided to sever it from his domain. Another realm of note is the Eternal Realm, where Kwansei, the Grand Priest's wife, resides. The existence of these realms, hidden from the eyes of ordinary beings, adds another layer of complexity to the rich tapestry that is the Dragon Ball multiverse. This is the realm that the Omni King longs to access. It is shrouded in mystery, its existence known only to him and the Grand Priest. To traverse its boundaries, he requires the purified aqua foam that flows within the sane warrior's veins. This mystical substance is the key to activating the fountain of creation, the sole gateway to this sacred dimension. The third and final realm in question stands as the pinnacle of all realms. This is a divine domain devoid of a name. It is a place untouched by time and space, a sanctum inhabited solely by the parents of the Omni King. Its secrecy is safeguarded by its obscurity, its nameless existence unbeknownst to all but the king himself. Not even the Grand Priest knows of this place. To the astonishment of all Dragon Ball fans, this enigmatic dimension is the ultimate destination that the Omni King seeks to reach through his meticulously laid plans, his final goal. It is here, in this unnamed celestial kingdom, where he yearns to reunite with his father, the true king of everything. The Grand Priest paced silently, his hands clasped behind his back in deep contemplation. A thought crossed his mind, and he spoke softly to himself. Could it be? No, it's impossible. Zalama has neither been seen nor felt in millennia. Moreover, had he truly breached the boundaries of the multiverse, I would have detected his presence. And not only that, if he had ventured into this realm, the Omni King would surely have sensed his kai. Yet he said nothing of the sort when I entered the throne room. So, it can't be him. But then who could it be? The Daishinkan's resolve strengthened as he continued his musings, determined to uncover the truth. The scene then shifted from the opulent palace of the Omni King to the chaotic battleground on Earth. Here, in a surprising turn of events, Lord Beerus had just unexpectedly intervened to save Frieza's life. "Listen, boy," Beerus began, turning to address Frieza with a sly grin. "Once all of this is settled, I've got a proposition for you. You've got the power, and you've definitely got the personality of a god of destruction. So, what do you say? Interested in taking over for me as Universe 7's god of destruction?" The words hit Frieza like a ton of bricks, leaving him utterly dumbfounded. Me? A god of destruction? He thought to himself. The notion almost too grandiose to fully comprehend. The words hit Frieza like a ton of bricks, leaving him utterly dumbfounded. Me? A god of destruction, he thought to himself. The notion almost too grandiose to fully comprehend. The Emperor of the Universe took a moment to ruminate on the offer. Gradually, a voice from within began to whisper seductively to him. Well, I can't say I'm entirely opposed to the idea, he mused internally. After all, such a title would benefit someone of my stature. And with the power and influence that comes with being a god of destruction, I could finally rule over the entire universe, just as I've always dreamt. As Frieza stood there, contemplating Beerus's proposition, the chaos of the battlefield seemed to fade into the background. The thought of becoming a god of destruction was tempting, to say the least. The power and influence that came with the title were exactly what he needed to fulfill his lifelong ambition of ruling the universe. But Frieza was no fool. He knew that with that title came a lot of responsibility and goals that were different from his ambitions. He also knew that becoming a god of destruction would mean serving under the Omni King, a thought that didn't set well with the Emperor. For all his ambition, Frieza was not ready to bow down to anyone, not even the Omni King himself. "Enough," roared Abaddon, his voice echoing with fury. "I've grown weary of this pointless chatter. My patience has worn thin. The time has come for me to bring this to a close. I shall take you with me now, so-called God of Destruction, even if I must drag you back dead." In the blink of an eye, the demon god disappeared, his power unparalleled as he cut through space and time. His speed was unmatched, so much so that not even Frieza nor the Z-fighters could track his movements. The primordial demon god was channeling an energy far greater than anything he had displayed before. He was finally tapping into his wellspring demon power, now known as destruction power. The very ground beneath their feet began to rupture, splitting the earth in two, right down to the core. It was at this moment that Abaddon reappeared, a mere blur of light in the air. His fist clenched tightly, while vibrating rapidly as he unleashed a devastating punch that cracked the air, intent on ending Lord Beerus's life in one shot. But what happened next took everyone by surprise. In a split second, Lord Beerus, who was concealing most of his strut strength against Black Frieza, transformed, his aura shining brighter than the brightest of suns. His form was magnificent, a spectacle that left everyone in disbelief. This was Lord Beerus's Ultra Instinct Ikari form. It was a sight to behold, true divine at its finest. It was a divine form witnessed by the mortal eyes only once before, and that was during his battle with the Saiyans, before he was tricked and sealed away by Son Goku. However, this time, Lord Beerus was an entirely different beast. Now he was a monster among even deities. His training had borne fruit, and he was now exponentially more powerful than before. This was the pinnacle of strength that Whis had tirelessly endeavored to help him achieve. A millennia of training had led to this, and now, Lord Beerus had not only attained it, but had mastered it beyond its peak perfection. This was Lord Beerus's at his limit, his full potential was realized. However, attaining such power comes with a great consequence. Lord Beerus's lifespan had been cut in half. For example, if Lord Beerus has 100 years left to live, he now has 50. This was a price he gladly paid, seeing that he had already found his successor. "Who is that?" yelled Android 17, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Is that Lord Beerus? What has he become? He was already a monster before, but now, he's just too freaking strong. The Earth is done for, and there is nothing we can do to stop it." A collective gasp swept through the crowd as everyone struggled to comprehend the sight before them. Lord Beerus, the god they knew, had undergone an extraordinary transformation. He had attained something beyond their wildest imaginations. It was common knowledge that Beerus had always held back a considerable portion of his power every time he fought, even against the Saiyans. He had always held back, leaving the extent of his true strength to remain a mystery, until now, that is. Krillin clenched his fists, a sense of unease washing over him. "Guys, I don't like the look of this," he shouted, his voice rising above the din of the surrounding chaos. He cast a worried glance at the planet beneath their feet, feeling it shudder under the force of a mere shockwave generated by Beerus parrying a seemingly inconsequential punch. The resulting wave of energy sent tremors through the Earth's crust, causing the ground to quake beneath them as volcanic eruptions started to occur all over the world. Even volcanoes that were thought to be dormant were now mysteriously active. "I don't think the Earth can withstand much more of this," Krillin muttered, his gaze fixed on the two godly figures suspended in midair, locked in an epic standoff. "We need to find a way to get them off the planet, and fast. If we don't, the Earth, and everyone on it, is doomed." "But how?" cried Android 18, her voice edged with panic, her mind racing with the thought of her daughter. "They're too powerful, and we can't rely on the Dragon Balls. They won't be usable for another 1,000 years." Krillin's voice echoed with a mix of hope and desperation. "Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Broly, where are you guys? He was talking to himself, a lone figure amidst the chaos, his voice barely rising above the turmoil that engulfed the battlefield. As the silence hung heavy, the stark reality began to descend upon him like a shroud. We can't stop him! Krillin's thoughts raced, a sinking feeling in his gut. We were foolish to ever think we could stand up against a god of destruction. The air around him was thick with energy and dread. Krillin's mind wandered, lost in the direness of their plight. The situation had indeed spiraled into the realms of the unthinkable. It had started with Lord Beerus, but now, as if their cup of woes wasn't brimming over already, Frieza had returned, accompanied by another figure minutes later. A monster whose very presence spelled doom. This new terror was an enigma, an unfriendly shadow looming large over the remnants of hope they clung to. But then, as if the universe itself had roared, a sudden collision of shockwaves cut through Krillin's reverie, jolting him back to the grim present. Lord Beerus and Abaddon had commenced their cataclysmic confrontation. The earth trembled, voicing its inability to contain the sheer magnitude of their power. It wasn't just the planet. The very fabric of the universe seemed to cry out, fraying at the edges under the strain of when two gods clashed. Inside the relative safety of her home, Bulma felt the walls shudder, the ground beneath her tremble as the earth split open. The building started to crumble, forcing her to lock herself and Bulla inside her laboratory, which was reinforced by steel walls and doors. This was the strongest place in the mansion. Her scream pierced the mounting dread, a mother's fear embodied in a single, harrowing sound. There was no refuge, no fortress against the celestial might outside. Looking down at her daughter, little Bulla, her eyes brimmed with terror. The thought of losing her, of the darkness that might consume the world they knew, was too much to bear. And in that moment of raw fear, her voice rose, a clarion call filled with both desperation and determination. Vegeta, we need you, your family needs you. As if in answer to Bulma's cry, the sky above responded. It was as though the heavens themselves had heard the plea of a mother's heart. With a brilliance that turned night into day, two radiant beams cascaded from the sky, their glow a stark contrast to the chaos that reigned on Earth. They touched the surface with the promise of hope, the possibility that help had arrived. Or so they thought. As the light diminished, the luminous glow giving way to clarity, the two beings revealed themselves. The air, thick with anticipation, seemed to be still for a moment. Every eye was fixed upon the newcomers, every heart paused in suspense. And then, a revelation struck, a bolt of surprise that sent waves of shock through all those present. They were not the saviors they had so desperately hoped for. The scene before them was one of awe and formidable power. Standing there were none other than Campari, the Angel of Universe 3, and Konik, the Angel of Universe 4. Their presence was almost ethereal, radiating an aura that commanded attention,